It's all about hope, it's all about dreams, it's all about faith and family. For all those who search, welcome to Lindale. Bringing the heart of God to the heart of Houston.
Never, why me, God? Don't do that. What if he answered you? I don't know, George. There's something about you I don't like. I'm sorry, George. I was trying to hit your wife. Y'all were moving. Because, you know, he has to allow for windage, rotation, orbit, light years, all that stuff. You know, it's easy to get off a little. God doesn't do evil. God didn't do this to me. God didn't make my mother sick. It happened. Who would have ever thought that her illness would set a standard for my behavior the rest of my life? And I speak to more people typically and easily in one day of a television transmission or one tour than my mother did in her lifetime. And yet her teachings are brought forth in my life and presented to a world she could never have gotten to. And we think, well, it's just not fair, a whole life. What is a whole life? It's nothing but a testing ground for the real life that's yet to come. We got all of our emphasis in the wrong place. Here we are fussing over the test when we're trying to graduate for something that's forever. The test is only temporary. Even Jesus called it the hour. And an hour has a beginning and an end. It has a duration, but it has an end. It doesn't last forever. He said the hour has come. So this life ends, and when it ends, the test is over and you graduate. My wife still thinks that death is nothing more than graduation. She calls it graduation. She doesn't even talk about death. She talks about graduation. So on the bank of that river, that grenade blew. What appeared to happen to me was a plan of God. God didn't do it. And I'm on TBN one night with Jan Crouch. I didn't want to be there. I was tired. I just finished a 90-day tour, and I had told her 3 times I wouldn't go. She calls me on Sunday night. We've got to have you tomorrow. It's Memorial Day. Listen, when they call that late, you're not important. The person they really wanted was important, and he canceled. So it's not, oh, Dave, you're so important, they just had to have you. Hogwash. And she wouldn't have even gotten me to go, except she said, General Robbie Reisner is going to be on, and General Reisner, our best friends, he was 7.5 years a POW, 4 of them in solitary confinement, a national treasure, an immense hero to this day, still alive. She said, General Reisner wants you to be on with him. I said, I'll be there. What time? So I get there, and I said to her when I arrived, I said, now, Miss Jan, please, I'm really tired. I haven't slept much. I'm exhausted. A 90-day tour without getting to come home. I said, ask me easy questions. Let's just deal with easy stuff. Sounds like Hillary during the primaries, doesn't it? She promised me she would, and the first question out of the bag, Davy, do you still carry baggage out of that war? Baggage out of the war? She's not asking about my Samsonite. She's not curious about my duffel bag. She's saying, are you suicidal? Do you wake up at night screaming, jerking hair rollers out of Brenda's hair, loading imaginary machine guns? And you know when you're tired, you talk too much. Help me, I'm talking and I can't shut up. You know what I told her? I told her stuff I never told anybody. I'm sitting on a television with a national audience in however many different countries around the world, and I am telling her stuff I've never told anyone. I told her how I was suicidal and how for 20 years I had not had a day that I could remember the thought of suicide didn't enter my mind. Don't look at me like, well, you know, hypocrite preaching the gospel during that time. Yeah, I overcame that suicide demon every day, or I wouldn't have gotten in the pulpit. I would have been dead. You have to overcome or you die. It's not optional. You win or you die. And I won every day for 20 years. But you know what? In the war of attrition, sooner or later, someone dies. The devil wins or you win. Something's going down. And the longer it goes, It just wears on you and wears on you and wears on you and wears on you. I'd already tried to take my life once while I was still, before I even got back from the war. I was in Japan while I was still in the hospital there. I saw myself in a mirror. They held it over my face. Left side of my head was swollen to my shoulder. Right side of my head was skull. I could see stuff moving around inside me. And the overdose of drugs that was probably normal, but I could overdose on a half dosage of a St. Joseph's aspirin for children. And they're pumping morphine in me, and my face in the mirror, they hell start talking to me. And they said, kill yourself, you half-headed freak. Your wife's a beautiful teenager. Get out of her misery. And I'm ashamed of what I did. And I want every kid here to hear me. Suicide's no solution, but I tried to take my life. I pulled the tube, laid my head back, waited to die. And I got hungry. It was the wrong tube. I pulled lunch. Now, you can die that way. But if you just smell one taco, you're plugging that tube back in. You don't want to die, you want to live. And you know, there's some people in this room right now will understand this next statement better than anyone else because of where you are or where you've been. Sometimes dying is a better option than living. Think about it. It can rip your soul apart. Whatever hurts so bad, you'd rather die than live. Well, I've been there, and I'm ashamed I pulled the tube, but they forgave me and got me to America. And I'm sitting on that TV set, and I'm telling of that moment and other moments when I sat with a gun to my head in the bedroom, looking in the mirror, wondering when I pull this trigger, will I see my brains come out? How fast do you die? And then realizing I would get brains in the carpet. So I went and got in the bathtub so they could wash it all down. And I said, well, she'll never take a shower again. A woman's got to bathe, and that tickled me. I started laughing, and I laughed my way out of the suicidal tub. It's bizarre, isn't it? It's bizarre. It's bizarre how God kept me alive during that time and gave me silly reasons to live. You know, I'm sitting there, and I'm just told this story and how even that very day the thought entered my mind. And what does Jan Crouch do? She flips her hair over her shoulder. And I thought, duh. And she looked at me and she said, you know why God let you be scarred, maimed, and burned, don't you? And I'm thinking to myself, no. But this blue-haired wonder is going to explain all that to me. I was so mad at her, I could have pinched her little head off. But this was not the Jerry Springer show. This is Christian TV where you fake it for Jesus. And I faked it big time. I pretended to be a gentleman when I didn't like her. She made me so mad, but I was polite. I said, no, Miss Jan, I don't guess I know why God let me be scarred, maimed, and burned. And she looked over her glasses at me, at which point I began to melt. When women do that to me, I'm finished. I just go upstairs and stand in the corner because I know that's where they're sending me. She looked at me and she said, Davy, Jesus didn't do that to you. He didn't shoot you that day. He didn't set you on fire. But he didn't stop it from happening because he knew he could trust you with the scars. And if you listen real close, maybe you can hear an eternal sound of claws slipping out of their grip on my back where a demon had rode me 20 years. And I've never thought of suicide again. It never enters my mind. I go every day happy because he trusted me with these scars.